Welcome, everybody, to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. My name is Ross Benjamin. I'm your host. And like every Tuesday, and it is Tuesday, January the 16th, I'm joined by my trusted cohorts, Mr. Jesse Schule and Mr. Sean Higgs, all three of us of gamblersworld.net, which is our sponsor site, and where you can find 10 of the finest handicappers, including us three, and where we guarantee our selections. And when we say that, folks, it's a refund. It is not a refund, I should say. It's a credit. If you don't make a profit, you don't win, we'll credit your account back the exact amount of your purchase price. It's been a lot of, not a lot, but there's been a couple of emails that have filtered through our customer support system of late, and people thinking they're going to get a refund. We don't refund the money. We credit your account back so you can make purchases from any handicapper at any time you wish. So, in any event, without further ado, Jesse, how are you?
Doing well, Ross. NFL wildcard weekend was exciting. Kind of cooled off with college basketball, but there's more than one sport to put money on the table, thankfully, and we're getting it done.
So, like I said a million times, and I'll say it again, we're still early in the college. We're midway through the college basketball season. A lot of conference action yet to be played, and then, of course, the postseason tournament. So, in terms of getting in a little cold streak in college basketball, I've hit sort of one of those 50-50 walls in college basketball, or a little less myself. It's a long way to go, Sean. It's a long season, and especially for a guy like you who's a volume capper.
Yeah, but yeah, I did all right yesterday. I think I went 3-1 yesterday with college basketball. So I'm 3-1. Had a winner the other day. So I'm certain it's been a nice January with college hoop. So happy with that. Hockey and NBA have been okay. Although it did lose yesterday. NBA had the over in the Toronto game. They had been over since that trade. I think we talked about it. Like they bought in two guys scoring an extra 30 points. You give up 15, you figure score some more. They had been, but not was the case yesterday. But whatever. Had I split out yesterday in NFL, but again, it's new weeks here. It is what it is. Every day, one day at a time. I don't know. We're doing all right. I can't complain.
Absolutely. And again, you could find our leaderboards right at gamblersworld.net, where you'll see you could actually not over the overall listing on how we're doing over the last 30 days or since the site's inception, or you could also go by specific sports. There's corresponding boxes in college basketball, NFL, all the way down the list that you could click on, and you could see who's on the leaderboards on each individual sport. And then also we have our hot streaks section at gamblersworld.net. So you want to check that out. There's a lot of ways to know what's going on at gamblersworld.net. And again, folks, we guarantee our picks, which means quite simply all single game and multi-game daily packages and subscription plans of 30 days or fewer are guaranteed with the assurance that if you don't win and you don't make a profit, we will credit your account back the exact amount of your purchase price so you could use that toward any future purchases you wish. All right, we're going to talk college basketball today, guys. I'm going to be looking at the Baylor-Kansas State game. Jesse's going to be looking at that big rivalry game in the state of Indiana as the Purdue Boilermakers travel to Bloomington to take on Indiana at Assembly Hall, and Iowa State and BYU. Great Big 12 matchup there as well. That'll be covered by Sean. Just a couple quick thoughts of what we saw over the weekend, guys, in terms of yesterday's game specifically. No surprises, really. I mean, Buffalo. I told you guys last week the game scared me a little bit. But when they moved the game to Monday and the weather improved, I got a little more confident with the Bills. Because now you're not limiting yourself to where you have to run the majority of the time. And then Philadelphia, boy oh boy, talk about it. No wonder Jim's not on there today. Just a total embarrassment and how they finished the season. And yesterday just culminated it all. Your thoughts, Sean, real quickly?
Buffalo, I was with you. On Friday, give me the 10.5 points if they're playing in the blizzard. It's just a run game. I still like the under. I didn't think the Steelers would score all that much. I lost there, but Buffalo, yes, throwing the ball, good game. The Eagles, 10-1 and then total collapse. But this is they had been dangerous all season, right? Playing with fire, being in games, winning by the skin of their teeth, and it caught up with them, and it all fell apart this past week with Brown, whatever's going on in the locker room, coordinator stuff, head coach, whatever. I want to say congratulations there on you called the Cleveland game. You're like the turnovers are going to come back and get them right in their butt, and 2 pick sixes. That's the difference in the game right there. That was it. That was the difference maker.
Yeah, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud continues to amaze for a rookie.
But the turnovers are turnovers. Dallas, a total no-show. I pegged that final score. I just had it the opposite way. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're going to run back these three, this three-headed monster of Quinn, McCarthy, and Dak. You can't give that guy $50 million next year. There's no way. No way. You got to not that Belichick is the answer or what. I'd rather have Vrabel. It doesn't make a difference because Jerry Jones is going to want a guy who's just going to want to.
But is it
there?
Is it the coaching really? I mean, they did have
Where's
over
the defense?
400. Yeah,
let's go back to the Lions game. You're up 8 and you're playing prevent defense the entire game. What are you doing?
Well, let's be honest. It looked like the Cowboys didn't show up. And anytime it looks like your team doesn't show up, who's that on?
It's a coach.
That's on the coach, right?
Well,
both sides showed up. Both sides of the ball. You got to get on Quinn a little bit.
We said the same thing about McCarthy earlier in the year and the Scooby-Doo mask, and you pull off the mask and it's just another version of Jason Garrett. It's the same old story, and these are the yes men that Jerry Jones brings in, to Sean's point, and Jerry Jones doesn't want a guy like Belichick who's not going to take orders.
No.
So,
listen, there is zero chance he takes his job. Let's be honest, because this is a Super Bowl roster. They're talented enough, right? Beginning of the year, they're a 5 or 6 top team to get to the Super Bowl. There is no way on God's green earth he's coming here and not, because if he doesn't win with this team, it's all Brady. No way. That guy, you might not think he's an egomaniac. Let's be honest. Most coaches are. You're one of 32 people in the world to do something. There is no way he's coming here to Dallas to do that. No way.
Yeah, well, Belichick's also a control type of guy like Jerry Jones. And the last I checked, when you put 2 of those same guys in a telephone booth, it's not going to work very well. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against either one of them. They both have been successful in some capacity. Jerry Jones.
One guy's a successful coach. The other guy's a billionaire businessman. Right, so let the coaches coach and let you run it and bring money in like you have for the NFL for 30 years.
If
you ran Jimmy Johnson out because Jimmy Johnson wanted too much credit for coaching the team. Come on.
If Belichick
I'm a Texans
is
fan
smart,
from now on.
Are you done?
No.
If Belichick is smart, I think he would take the Atlanta job, Sean and Jesse. Only because there's a foundation of talent there that I think is untapped, especially on offense. And again, he's taken a situation that's not impossible to turn around, and he's not going into a high pressure situation like Dallas, where it's either win the Super Bowl or you're a failure. And like you said, Sean, it's a good point. He's an egomaniac a little bit, like Jerry Jones, and that's just not a good fit. And that whole situation. What bothers me the most, I would say, Jesse, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, is just the body language of the Eagles yesterday. I don't know what's happened between the midpoint of this year or beyond, because they were 10-1 at one point, and how they were last year and how they finished the year. How do you show up for a playoff game and seem disinterested? And talk about going back to the coach. I would think that's on him more than anybody else. In culture.
Well, I think there's clearly more than one problem with the Eagles right now. Like Sean said, it looks like a toxic atmosphere in the locker room. To be honest, I think if you bet the Cowboys this week, you take that loss, and you don't feel too bad about it. You had the more talented team. They should have showed up and played better than they did. But if you bet the Eagles this week, I think you got to check yourself a little bit and say, why did I try to step in front of that? Why did I try to catch a falling knife? The writing was on the wall. The Eagles had a ton of problems. And if you're betting on them to turn things around on Wild Card Weekend,
just because it's the playoffs, right?
Yeah, now you're talking hope and prayer, not actual handicapping, right? So
like I told you last week, Jesse, when you start betting them because a team is due, you could lose a lot of money that way. And I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying people with that mentality, it doesn't work in sports betting. There has to be value. Okay.
Like that I was going to say, Ross, like coming into that game, you're thinking, you know what? It's a Eagles kind of circle the wagon game. Like everybody's on us. We've been bad. The finger point. We're a team. Let's show us, Philly mentality. We're going to come out here, right? That's what you're expecting during the week with them.
Yeah.
And then midway through, it's like, oh, why do we fire the assistant? And Brown's like, well, I'm not playing ever again. And he gets rid of all the Eagle stuff and goes off. So I mean, like, you knew on Friday that team was getting crushed because it was a lot bigger than, as opposed to we're in it together. We're going to go out here and win. It turned into we are not even going to, and they showed up a little bit. They battled a little bit, and then it was all right first half. It looked ugly, but at least they were kind of in the game at 16-9 or whatever it was.
Yeah. They look like they couldn't get out of there quick enough. They couldn't end their season quick enough. They couldn't wait to escape quick enough. And again, I go back to the head coach on that. You're right, Jesse. I mean, that's a true reflection of the head coach. And based on what you just said, Sean, that really goes hand in hand with culture. And culture is developed by the coaching staff. It's developed by the leadership in the locker room. And that was sorely lacking, obviously, going down the stretch.
Let's go back to the Cowboys Sunday night game where they won in Philly. And it's like, it's like some just random Italian guy who's like on the sideline just picking a fight with somebody on the team. Like, they're like, this is how Philly is. We're a family. And then fast forward to this past
the head of
week,
security it was.
Yeah. And this week it's people are just going after each other, going after the coaches. It totally fell apart where you think we're going to come out and we're going to win this game. And that's it. We're winning this game 30-17. And we'll see you in Detroit and show you what we're about. We went to the Super Bowl last year. Nope.
Right. Turning that light switch on and off at this time of year is a very difficult thing to do.
I don't know if either of you guys had Philly, but to Sean's point,
I had the overs, Jesse, and I was pissed off. And I know why he made the decision, but when he took the field goal off the board on the offside on the field goal attempt, and he took the field goal off the board and he went for it on 4th and 5, and then they ended up with nothing. So I had 43. Sean had 44.5. We actually could have both won if he left that on because Sean had the under 44.5. I had over 43. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jesse. Go ahead.
Yeah, just my point that to Sean's point about the circling the wagons, this is a spot where you bank on a team to rally under tough circumstances. That's fine if they're getting 3 points, but I don't know if you can make that argument if they're laying 3 points on the road to a team that that isn't playing that, that's got their own. They got things going for them.
But also, doesn't that? I mean, let's be honest. The guys who come up with the number and we try to beat it, we think they're wrong, right? We take a side because we think the number's wrong. That one just screamed Tampa Bay, right? Was that just a 3 and 2.5 because it's Philly and they just can't keep losing? Like, why? I mean, you put that out of pick'em, people are unloading on Philly, right? Yeah. I mean, yes or no? If that's a pick'em, people still bet Philly at 3 because it seemed like, man, you got to take them at 3, right? 2.5 to 3. It's again, my thinking of Philly was that was my thinking. This would be our statement game. Whatever. Forget the regular season. It's playoff time. Let's go show them Philly style football. But then it's halfway through the
week. 2 home dogs this weekend.
No, I didn't have them. No. I had to set the under.
Yeah. 2 home dogs this week.
As much as I hate Philly because I'm a Cowboy fan, I have to look at it as the perspective of what I think is going through people's heads, right? That's how
you
right?
have
these guys look.
Buddy, it's like I've been saying that all along. You got to think like a bookmaker. When a bookmaker makes a line, they also factor in public perception and know that the public has a short memory. They remember what they saw last week. They're not looking ahead. They're not looking too far behind. It's just a short memory span.
Yep.
And I could have this argument. Me and Paul Bovey are on the opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that, because he goes into players and injuries, and he does well. I mean, Paul's a sharp guy, but everybody looks at it differently. We look at it along the same lines. That for the most part, you think like an odds maker. Sometimes you have to. Okay, you have to know that when an odds maker. I mean, Sean, how many times have we saw a line jump right out at us when it comes out, and it looks odd, and when usually it points to an obvious pick. And I know myself, I have a tendency to look the other way as soon as I see that and see if look deeper into it. But anyway, let's get to the college basketball, guys, because we've taken more than enough time on talking about the NFL, and we got a lot of talk coming up on the NFL as the week progresses. With the upcoming divisional round games. All right, so let's start with Jesse in this Battle of Indiana here as the Purdue Boilermakers go on the road to take on the Indiana Hoosiers. This is a really heavy line, Jesse. Purdue. I saw him at 9, and I see him at 10.5. Quite a disparity there. But whatever the best line is you want to use here. In the total in this game, if you're interested as well, is 151. And this game will be on Peacock. Boy, if I see one more telecast on Peacock, I think I'm gonna puke. Anyway, go ahead, Jesse, about the game itself.
Okay, well, 2 weeks ago, I gave out a play on Maryland versus Purdue. Maryland.
Yeah.
you guys remember that game, right? Maryland was getting 6 points at home. I liked Maryland as the home dog. I cited previous head-to-head history and how well they played against Purdue last year. And I was only getting 6. And that game ended 67-53 for Purdue. I took a swing and I missed, I guess you could say badly. Failed to cover by half a dozen, 7 or 8 points. But now I'm getting a lot more points, and Indiana looks a lot better than Maryland does at this point in the season. And you look at that score, 67-53. Maryland's defense came to play. They just couldn't score, which is an issue for Maryland. They rank 13th in the Big Ten in scoring. They only hit 41% from the field. Indiana is not an offensive juggernaut, but they are shooting 48% from the field, which big difference between 41% and 48%. And they have a similar history against Purdue. They've won 3 of the last 4 outright. The one loss during that span, 69-67 at Purdue. Last year they handled them in both games. You got Indiana, they're 9-1 at home, 15-2 at home last year. I know they lost their leading scorer. I know they weren't expected to be an upper level Big Ten team this year, but so far they've been competitive in most games they played. I think they lost to Kansas by 4 or 5 points earlier this year. You're going to give me 10.5 points. I'm going to have to take the 10.5. Just I respect Purdue. I think they're a great team, but it's tough to win on the road at all, and it's even tougher if you got to cover 10.5 points. So I will take Indiana in a rivalry game as a home dog plus 10.5.
Sure, and that's the big difference between this game and the Maryland game is it's a rivalry game, and it's more points. And let's not forget, I mean, Jesse talked about the game they won at Maryland, meaning Purdue, but they also have 2 road losses in conference. They lost at Northwestern 92-88 in overtime, and then they got blown out at Nebraska 88-72. So, Sean, what's your take on this matchup?
Yeah, well, I was going to bring those both up. I see the 10.5s up here at Caesars. I'm like, and this goes to one of those things where it's like, wow, 9. Are they begging you to take Indiana? But how do you not take the points here? I'm going to get double. I was hoping for double digits. 10.5 is super. If it goes down, it goes down. As we like to say, conference dogs it's tough to win on the road. You mentioned the Northwestern game, Nebraska game. I think we were on the dogs in those games as well. Yeah, I'm with Jesse on this. How can I turn up 10 points in a rivalry game and a team that hasn't? I mean, you're losing. I mean, the Nebraska loss is bad, but I mean, it's still a good team. I mean, it's tough.
No, no
it's
doubt.
tough against Purdue, but it's 10 points on the road. I mean, what are we doing here? Give me the points.
Who was our buddy Ninja? He was saying Purdue was overrated.
Overrated.
Anyway, I gotta love Ninja. In any event, yeah. I mean, look, Indiana's 9-1 on their home court too, and their only loss was against Kansas. They lose by 4, but they covered as a 7-point dog. So
yep.
I think we're all in agreement here. But our official pick comes from Mr. Schule. He's going to take Indiana plus 10.5 against Purdue. All right, over to you, Sean. This is a real good matchup as well. Iowa State and BYU, legitimate top 10 teams when it comes down to it. They may not be rated there right now, but I know the KenPom has, I think, BYU number 11 and Iowa State number 12. BYU on their home floor, laying a 4.5 and 144.5. What do you got for us on this one, buddy?
And you look at this because I think Iowa State is at 9 in the net too, which is interesting. Because I know you like to bring up the strength of schedule. I saw this somewhere. They are 276 strength of schedule for this team. But you beat Houston, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's a pretty good team. Because not only they beat Houston, you follow that up with a win also, which is not easy to do, right? Most teams, it's kind of, they got to go opposite way there. Not only do they win, they cover at 12 and win by 20-something points. So not to be taken lightly. But here we go. It's a road game. I'm going to lean BYU here because this is a spot. And they lost to Cincy as a favorite at home, BYU, right? They were, I think, a 10-point fave, and they lost to Cincy. They went because we did BYU game last week against Baylor. I think we had them. Yep. I had to show 3 points in the last 11 minutes. That's not really going to win you any games versus anybody. Both teams pretty good defensively. Again, this is one of those lines, and it was an opener at a 3. So it moved up a little bit, 3.5. So now it's 4.5. I'm going to roll with BYU. I just think it's an oddball spot, and maybe they're not good. You've lost to Baylor, you lost to Cincinnati, you beat UCF, who had just upset Kansas. So and you only won by a handful on the road.
5, yeah.
I think this is a telltale spot for BYU this season. Are they for real? Like they were a decent squad outside of the Big 12, but now you have stiff competition. Not every week, a couple times a week. The line, though, it's one of those that stuck out with me when I first saw it. I'm like, wow, BYU's 4-point favorite to start, 4.5. I'm going to go. Let's go. Cougars. I'm going to try the home team here, laying a small number, BYU.
Yeah, I like the strength of schedule in terms of what BYU's faced compared to Iowa State. You're going to have 17,000 strong in Provo like you always do. So they do get a lot of home support there, and they've played well on their home floor. Yeah, they lost to Cincinnati by 11 as a 9.5-point favorite. But other than that, Jesse, they're 9-1 on their home floor, and they've covered 8 of those 10, and they've outscored opponents on their home floor by an average of 30.2 points per game. What's your take, Jesse?
Not interested in any of that, Ross. And I'm going to tell you why I'm more interested in the total. Money's coming in on BYU, but it's also coming in on the over. I believe this opened at 139. It's already been bet up to 144.5. That's a big move on the total. And I'm going to lean into a trend here, and I want your guys' opinion. And I know this is going to be hard for Sean, but wait till I'm finished giving out the pick before you jump in with the opinion. But so I'm going to lean heavily into a trend based on a small sample size of just 3 games, which I normally wouldn't do. I normally wouldn't say, well, in their last 3 games, this team is doing this, as if it's that meaningful. But why I'm leaning into this trend for this game is the last 3 games are their 3 Big 12 games. So we're talking about the 3 games they've played in conference as opposed to the 12 games they've played outside of conference, and why I'm more inclined to lean into, if I see a trend developed in these 3 games, in their last 3 games, I'm gonna roll with that. So Iowa State is scoring 62 points per game in conference play against Big 12 teams. They're allowing just 55 points per game. BYU, uncharacteristically, my first glance at this game, I was like, BYU, it's going to be high scoring. They like to run and run up the score a little bit, but not in their first season in the Big 12. They're just scoring 65 points per game. They're coming off of a 63-58 win at UCF, and their last home game just 71-60 against Cincinnati. So maybe BYU's learning that they got to play defense in the Big 12 here. You got a total of 144.5, which means both teams have to score 70 odd points, 70 plus to get you over that number. Iowa State, they play pretty slow. They play strong defense. I can see this game going under the total. So that's where I'm at with that. What are you guys' thoughts on the 3-game trend?
Yeah, I always look at stuff like that, Jesse. You know what I mean? I discussed this with Paul Bovey the other day. He's going, I don't look at past results like you do. And I'm not so much where I look at past results for an entire season. But if I see something trending in terms of offense and defensive trends, I pay attention. And then I also factor in who they played. And like you just said, this all falls within a Big 12. The points you made and the statistics you brought up, I think it's a great way to look at things. I'm on board 100%. And that also look at the fact that, again, KenPom, that I like to look at stuff at KenPom, especially when it comes to college basketball totals. And BYU is number 7 in the country in defensive efficiency, and Iowa State is number 2. So both teams look at. I said that I like BYU's schedule a little more than Iowa State, but if you look at both their non-conference schedules, neither one of these teams played anybody that was noteworthy. Iowa State played Texas A&M, which was about their toughest game in their non-conference portion of the schedule, and they lost that game. I do concur with what you're saying, Jesse, and I do look at stuff like that. Is it the sole reason why I make a pick? No, but I'm sure you would agree it's not the sole reason why you make a pick. It may just lead you down a path that makes you look further into what you're seeing recently. So, Sean, your take?
No, I like that look. And how about, again, this could lead into why I like a little BYU also here. You mentioned a A&M game on a neutral, 73-69. That would have been an under this total. On a neutral, Virginia Tech loser, 71-62. VCU neutral winner, 68-64. I mean, they have problems shooting away from home. You mentioned the Oklahoma game, 63 points on the road. So, just another thing. Them away from home, Iowa State doesn't seem to put up the 107 like they do against Prairie View or the 90 plus against other teams. Getting fat off of the weaklings of that 290, whatever it is, 280 strength of schedule. So I like it, Jesse. And you got the good number too. It's as high, and if you liked it, you probably would have liked it at 140. So you got a better number as well.
Yeah, both teams in terms of strength of schedule and their non-conference portion of the schedule, which you got to look at because non-conference portion of your schedule sometimes could be lead to a deceiving overall record. And both of these teams are up over 300 in the non-conference portion of their schedule. But like I alluded to, that defensive efficiency rating for both teams, right there, number 2 for Iowa State, number 7 for BYU. And they rate how that works, folks, is for how many points you allow per 100 offensive possessions by the opposition. So, and they hold teams down in that regard to the degree I just mentioned. All right. So we're going with Iowa State and BYU to go under the total of 144.5. Is that correct, Jesse?
That's the pick I like, but it's Sean's pick, and Sean says BYU. I don't think we should let him.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, BYU. I got confused there.
Jesse's got Indiana.
Yes, Jesse's got Indiana. Sean, the official pick here is BYU -4.5. Jesse makes a good point for the under here, and me and Sean both agree with his point of view. And again, all three of us agree with Jesse's pick on Indiana plus 10.5. Let me look at my game and we'll wrap things up here, folks. So I'll go as quickly as possible on this one. I am going to be looking at the Kansas State and Baylor game. And, Kansas State, interesting team. This is a team that went to the Elite Eight last year. I'm just not sold they're as anywhere near as good this year. I do like this Baylor team. Having said all that, Baylor is a pick 'em in this game in 140, which jumps right out at me. I mean, Baylor did open as a small favorite here, and now it's down to a pick 'em. You might see Baylor at -1 in some spots. In any event, this is a Kansas State team that's 8-1 at home. Sounds impressive, right? But their only loss was by 16 versus Nebraska. Also, keep in mind, 3 of their 8 home wins came in overtime against Oral Roberts, Northern Alabama by 1, and then they beat Villanova by 1 in overtime. And again, we talked about this before, Sean. Villanova, I don't think that they're as good a team as the brand name indicates they are, and I think people lose sight of that. It's a Villanova team that's lost 3 games against in-city competition in the Philadelphia area. So I don't think they're that good. And then they also had narrow home wins, meaning Kansas State against Chicago State by 7 as a 20-point favorite, and Bellarmine by 8 as the 16-point favorite. This is also a team, this is what disturbs me about Kansas State more so than anything else. The Wildcats are turning the ball over on 20.7% of their offensive possessions. That's 329 worse than the country. And there's only 363 teams in college basketball. And we know that Baylor has, not so much this year, but they've always had the reputation of pressuring the ball to try to speed the game up. And they like to force turnovers and play in transition. And this might be right up their alley. Now, Baylor, on the other hand, they're 14-2. Their only losses came against Duke and Michigan State, 2 ranked teams. And they got quality wins this year against number 11 BYU. I'm going by KenPom rankings. Number 11 BYU, number 33 Cincinnati, number 40 Florida, and number 4 Auburn. And this is also a Baylor team. We talked about offensive and defensive efficiency. Well, Baylor's number 4 in offensive efficiency, and they're the best 3-point shooting team in the country, folks. 43.7%. And boy, oh boy, when you're on the road and you could shoot the 3 that well, and it also leaves open the possibility that this is a Baylor team. If they fall behind in a game, they could make up that difference quickly just because of that alone. And don't underscore the fact that Baylor lost to Kansas State twice last year, both meetings, and big-time revenge here. I think it's a good spot for them. I like Baylor as a pick 'em at Kansas State tonight. Jesse?
My first bet of this college basketball season was on USC over Kansas State. And I said Kansas State's lost all their main starters from last year. They not the same team. I expect them to struggle, and they did. They lost to USC and cashed in the winner in that first bet. But since then, they've been actually a little bit more competitive than I thought they would be. And they're coming off that 1-point loss at Texas Tech. And, I seen this line open at 3. I thought, maybe I could make a case for them if they're getting a handful of points at home. But at a pick 'em, it's hard to go against a Baylor team. And really, if Baylor shows up, they should be able to win this game. So I see where you're coming from, Ross.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's if Baylor shows up. And I got to believe they will because they lost to this team twice last year. So shame on them if they don't come to play. And like I said, their home record, Sean, really deceiving at 8-1. I mean, when you look at those 3 overtime wins, matter of fact, their overall record this year, I don't have it in front of me. Sean, do you have their overall? What is it? 12-4. And 4 of their wins, not only the 3 in overtime at home, they've gone 4-0 in overtime games. So this team could be very easily 8-8 or 10-6, if not for pulling off all those overtime wins. Anyway, Sean, your take?
You mentioned all those good points on Baylor. Double revenge, top 10 team, just flat out better. Kansas State schedule. How do you not love Kansas State and the lines of pick 'em now? Holy cow.
Yeah. Well,
It's Kansas State for me, folks. I'm annoyed I didn't take
All
the
right.
2 last night.
Are you going to
Ordinarily, I would
like
think that way. It's almost like you're talking about the Ross Benjamin school of thinking, and you're right.
I mean,
but this is one
that's
of
an
those
auto
situations.
play. Well, I'm
can't-
shocked you don't have Kansas State here. I'm shocked when
Yeah.
you said you were taking Baylor. I'm
Yeah.
shocked.
We'll see.
That is
Again, it's a free pick. I'm not going to be using this on my premium card, but certainly, most of the time, I would think exactly what you just said, Sean. This time, I just can't ignore it. Sometimes you just can't ignore the data and the strength of schedule,
I
and
know.
also,
Listen, Ross, you know what?
yeah.
Hey, how can you have 20 games bet on college basketball Saturday? Because the first thing I look at is I go to top 25 matchups, and I'm circling every single team that looks like this and going the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I'll happily
Yeah.
go 4-3 or something because it's not one game, it's not one day. Over November to March, this will make me money.
Like I said,
I think we got one tonight. I think we got New Mexico as a 5-point favorite, unranked, laying 5.
Yeah.
TCU the other day, same thing, unranked, laying 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, unranked, laying. I mean,
the
It does seem to be
the
like the
unranked-
bookmakers are making adjustments on the home teams,
but
and you're getting a lot less
I
deals
look at
on
the unranked versus ranked team thing, Sean, and it did not work very well last year, if you recall. That was a bad year for that. But ordinarily, that's a good way to approach it. And like I said on several occasions, Jesse, and I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy, but let you get your thoughts in, and then we need to wrap up. I don't marry myself to just one aspect of handicapping, and just because an indicator to me might be a line that jumps out at me, there has to be more supporting data beyond that, and I just can't ignore what I've seen in terms of numbers. The numbers don't lie, liars don't figure, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, Jesse, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from my point of view, whatever your angle is, the more it works, the less likely it is going to continue to work, because the bookmakers are going to as too many people catch on, the bookmakers are going to catch on. Like Sean said, you got New Mexico, a 5.5-point favorite. They should probably be a 2.5-point favorite. But they know all these sharp actions looking to back this home team in a spot like this. So they're, for me, it just sucks the value out of it. I know Sean's like, well, they should be 2.5 or 5.5. I'm all over them. But for me, it's like, no. I want them at 2.5. I want to wait for those spots.
Yeah,
Sean's not waiting for those spots because he's loading up every day. But
but I think Sean would agree. I think Sean would agree, Jess, and I agree with you too. That Sean, even though he looks at that doesn't mean he's automatically playing those types of games with a no-brainer mentality. That only wakes you up to look further into it, right, Jeff? I mean, I think you would agree with that. And Sean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, the line is gone. We move on. Like last night, the K-State game had already moved from 2.5 down to 1. I'm like, I'd rather, if I'm losing, I'd rather lose with the better number. I don't want to lose with the bad, the worst number.
Yeah.
Like I still think, Kansas State, I pick them like, all right, I don't have them. I mean, I won't even use them as a free pick. Maybe I throw them out on midday money today. I don't even know.
See,
the line's gone. You got to move on. It's all about the number. You need a good number.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to.
The thing with me with the unranked versus ranked teams and unranked teams being favored is, remember, those rankings that's why I use KenPom rankings. Those rankings are made by members of the media, coaches. There's a human element there. Whereas when I look at rankings at KenPom, it's data driven. Okay, so that's the other part of the equation. Anyway, all good points, guys.
Go ahead. We can wrap up. This goes back to what the Ninja said in the comments. Like, oh, they're overrated or something. Like, people look at a number and see that. Like, most people coming to betting, these are the games they want. They want top 25 matchups. They don't want anything to know about Indiana State, or Big Sky Country. Like, they want marquee names. So when they see a top 10 team, they're an underdog. Oh, this is easy. This is easy money here right now. That's
Yeah.
the mentality of 95% of the bettors probably now. The new people coming in, like they just see
Or
that
or
number,
what
and
or what
they
me
don't
and
know the
Jesse have
bookmakers.
witnessed before in the comments section. It's if Team A beats Team B and Team B beats Team C. Well, surely, Jesse, Team A has to beat Team C, correct?
I mean, that's how it works.
It's that easy, Sean. Don't you know that? It's that easy.
I said somebody was talking about the Lakers. I said, you know what? The Spurs beat the Lakers. Apparently, the Spurs should be in the playoffs this year. Spurs beat the Lakers. The Lakers beat Denver. Does that mean the Spurs are a top 5 team in the NBA because they beat the Lakers? No. I mean, teams go win the game.
Yeah. Sean, tell the folks a little bit about what's been going on with you of late, more than what you alluded to at the beginning of the show, and what they could look forward to this week. I mean, we got college basketball, we got the NBA, we got NHL, and certainly on Saturday and Sunday, we're all looking forward to the 4 games in the NFL postseason.
Yep, I got 2 games posted. Haven't added the packages yet, but the games are up for the NFL. NBA, NHL, not too bad. Listen, January 1st, 60% on the site, so not too shabby. All sports included.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm cashing. I got some hockey tonight. I got some hockey winners up. NBA didn't. I mean, I liked the 3 dogs today. I did like all 3 doggies today. Didn't use them. I'm just letting you know. But it's been NBA 5-3. But it's not 5. Yes, it is 5-3. 5-3 at 62%. I think. Yeah. Looks ugly, but it's a winner. But so far, so good in 2024. So
there you go, 62.5% to be exact. And Mr. Schule, what do you got to say, my man?
Well, I'm going to remind everybody what I said on the last show about NBA playoffs. 134-87. That's 61%. 36,330 units. That's all my NBA playoff picks over the last 5 years. 5 consecutive winning playoff seasons in the NBA. It isn't the playoffs yet, but I just want to warm everybody up, get them ready so that when the playoffs do come around, they'll be conditioned to knowing that I'm their man. In addition to that, I went 3-1 on Wildcard Weekend, and I'm now making a prominent appearance on all the NFL leaderboards at gamblersworld.net. I'm happy to be there. College basketball's cooled off, but as Ross said, there's plenty of time left to correct that, and that's what we plan on doing.
I don't know if people look at you as their man just because the NBA playoffs is 2 months away. I know one thing: me and Sean think you are a man. That's for sure. So I'm going to look at real quickly here, folks. College basketball, sort of. I want to do better. 55-41 run since March 11th of 2023. That's good for 57%, about a $9,000 profit if you're a dime better. My college basketball totals over the last 2 years, though, folks, you have to keep an eye on that. When I put them out, I don't put a lot of them out, but when I do very well. 55-31 run with those, 64%. $21,000 profit and dime betters. NBA sides, my money line and point spread picks in 32 with my last 92. Obviously, that goes beyond this year. And then all sports 249 and 191 since August the 4th, which is good for 57%. All sports, I don't give out big money line chalks, folks, so your rate of return is pretty good. If you're a dime player during that course of time since August the 4th in all sports, a profit of $37,500. Don't forget, folks, if you have not subscribed yet, there's a black subscribe button right underneath the video box. Click on that. It's absolutely free to do so. No strings attached, no hidden agenda. You're just privy to the best sports betting podcast on the internet today and some of the best handicappers that you'll find anywhere in the world today. And that's right, the world, I said, and that includes us 3. And the other point is that if you are watching on your PC, there's no subscribe button, but there is a WC logo in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and you just click on that. It serves the same purpose. And folks, for those of you who have subscribed, we appreciate each and every one of you. And for those of you who are new, take one step further, make your life easier. Go into your YouTube settings and click on that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, and you'll be notified immediately upon any of our future broadcasts, which is 6 times a week, going up on our great channel. All right, Jesse, there's a like button right underneath.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button, folks. And it's a small token of your appreciation for the work, time, and effort we put into bringing you a quality podcast and to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. I will be back tomorrow morning with Mr. Schule and Mr. Higgs, and we'll be talking more college basketball at that particular moment in time. Don't forget to visit our sponsor site, gamblersworld.net, where you'll find 10 of the finest handicappers in the country, and all picks guaranteed that if you don't win, you don't make a profit, we will credit back your account the same amount of your purchase price. Until the next time, for Jesse Schule and Sean Higgs and Ross Benjamin, take care and God bless, folks.